I'm going to share a witness just as a follow-up to Naomi's talk. And Naomi and I did not speak at all about the content of our two talks, but there were a lot of similarities. One thing is I, too, could always relate to the older brother. I always felt a lot of sympathy for him, felt like he was treated unfairly, and just struggled to understand kind of what God was saying in this parable. And the reason for that was that also I was a good kid. I wasn't a partier, didn't drink, didn't do drugs, didn't mess around, didn't do any of those things. And never missed Mass on Sunday, was just always a good kid. And when I would share my story with different people, it never contained any of those dramatic elements that you sometimes expect to hear in a conversion story. So, but like Naomi said, even though I thought I was a good girl, my heart was far from the Father. And I think what the older son teaches us is that it's possible to wander far from the Father, to be lost, as she said, even if we never leave the Father's house. So what do I mean? Like I said, I was a good girl growing up, raised in a Catholic family, and always went to Mass, went to Catholic school, did everything I was supposed to do. And as I was growing up, though in my family and just in my own life, my faith was not really at the center. It was really, I was at the center of my life. And it wasn't that I was consciously excluding God, it's just that I just didn't really think about him that much. Everything else was more important. Clothes, friends, school, my plans, my dreams, my desires. That was pretty much all I thought about. And every now and then, if I'm honest with myself, even as a young teenager, there were moments where I would feel like something was missing or feel some sort of hunger for something more. But it was really easy to just distract myself and not think about that too much, not dwell on those little feelings, that little sense that maybe something was not completely right. That really changed when I was a junior in high school. My parents divorced. My dad left our family, and it turned my world upside down. It was really difficult to deal with. And suddenly, whereas everything was going great, I was the center of my little world, suddenly everything was not going great. And I knew that I didn't know how to deal with this. And it was as if the bedrock was taken from beneath me. Everything that I thought was just always going to be there, my family, everything that I'd come to count on was suddenly gone. And I felt like I had nothing. I was just adrift. There was nothing that I could really base my life on, my security on. And because I was seeking for something, just anything, some sort of help, it was the mercy of God, I think, that led me. I saw an advertisement at my high school for a youth group, and I just started to go to these meetings. And it was partly just to get out of the house on Sunday nights. I started going to this youth group meeting. And there, it was the witness of teenagers, like you, that kind of showed me, okay, God can be the bedrock of my life. He loves me. That's something that I could base my life on, and something that's never going to be shaken or taken away. And it was awesome at first. I was really involved in my youth group, went to every single thing that they had, and I was learning my faith for the first time. And I was just in that total first fervor and excitement of discovering my Catholic faith. And I loved it. And then over time, though, it was as great as the youth group was, I always felt like I didn't quite fit in. And I had some really close friends in the youth group, but I wasn't one of the leaders, and I wasn't the most popular kid. And I was just kind of on the fringe of things, and I wanted that to be different. I wanted to just because I enjoyed it so much, I want to just be more involved, and I didn't know what to do about that. And then I started noticing over time that we'd have kids come to the youth group. They'd be in high school, they would just kind of suddenly join, and they'd have these amazing conversion stories. And they would come in, and they would just talk about, all the terrible things that they were involved in, and then how they encountered Christ, and then turned their lives around. And it was these kids who would come in and tell these stories. It was they were instant celebrities in the youth group. They were immediately popular. And I was totally jealous of them. And when Naomi was talking about little petty things, we get jealous. I mean, how jealous of that? How petty is that, to be jealous of somebody's conversion story? That's really silly. but that's how I felt. And it's not that I was even fully aware of it at the time, but there was just this resentment, wow, if I had a story like that, if I had been a crazy, had this crazy past or something, I'd be popular like those kids. And everybody would kind of admire me, give me attention like that. And so I started to just, again, kind of struggle with that. And I joked with one of my friends that I was going to make up a cool conversion story and then kind of start telling that one and see what happened. But I didn't do that. then I thought, it kind of got into this thing where I was like, okay, well, that's not my story. I didn't have a path like some of these kids in the youth group. And I thought, so I'm going to distinguish myself. I'm going to be the holiest kid in the youth group. And then it was like that was going to be my identity. I was going to be the one who was always in the chapel, always praying, like the most fervent during praise and worship. And so I kind of tried that little identity out for a while, but that wasn't working. It wasn't real. And so then when it happened, it finally just got to a point where around my senior year, towards the end of my senior year of high school, I just questioned, like, why am I doing this? Why am I making the time to go to this youth group? Why am I getting involved in these service projects? What is this all about? I wasn't getting the same enjoyment and high out of it that I was when I first started going. So I just started questioning, what am I doing? And then that's what made me stop and think and sort of examine, okay, how did I get to be so far from the Father? What I did when I started to struggle and I started to feel like I don't want to go to youth group anymore, I don't want to be involved in this anymore, it concerned me. I didn't really have any other place to go. My family was still a mess, and all my friends were in the youth group. And so that's kind of what made me bring it to prayer instead of just sort of walking away. So I started to just talk to the Lord about it, tell him how I was feeling. And what the Lord did, he didn't give me a smackdown like Naomi. He treats us all, I think, the way that we need to be treated. And the Lord basically gave me an experience of his love. And he, just a profound experience of the gift of his infinite, incredible, personal love for me. And it basically immediately showed me, that's all I need. That's what this is about. It's about encountering the love of the Father. And then I really experienced that I was his beloved daughter. And that nothing would ever change that. And that was the greatest treasure that I had. And then I began to see God loves each person like that. Each person is his son or his daughter, and he has that same infinite, incredible personal love for him. And then I began to see the kids who had shared their conversion stories, how sad it was that they had to spend that time away from the Father, that they had lost that time to be experiencing his love. And I was so touched by Enrique's story last night. And he's the kind of kid I would have been totally jealous of. He would have been immediately a superstar in the youth group. Sorry, Enrique. but what's that? Sorry, I'm calling you the wrong name too. See, it's like you all must have been like, "Who's Enrique? Did we miss something last night?" Sorry, that's like a totally different name. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, sorry, Raphael. I'm really sorry for messing up your name and for being that I would have been jealous. But now what I felt when I heard Raphael telling his story last night was just a great sadness for the pain that he had experienced, and just how difficult it was, that struggle to be free from the sin, and how sad it was that he didn't have the Father's love. And not only, it wasn't only, I saw too, I wasn't just sad for Raphael, I wasn't sad for other kids who had had that time apart from the Father. I was sad for the Father. I saw how experiencing the Father's love, seeing his love for me, seeing what brings him joy, I saw how sad he is when his children don't receive his love and they wander far from him. So, okay, so just the last thing in conclusion, if you're like me, if you relate more to the older brother, just know this. Know that the Father is waiting for you. He runs to you too. He's waiting to welcome you back to treasure his love above all things.